all hit the beach. Every dang one of us was scared. Couldn't move, throwing mortars at us, giving us everything up there 545 feet away at the top of Mount Surbud, hammering away at us. We put our flag on Japanese soil for the first time in history, and it made them infuriated, and they fought twice as hard. The Lord is good, the stronghold in the day of trouble, and he knoweth them that trust in him. Nahum 1:7.
America is at war.
I was born in Detroit, Michigan, 1925, May 3rd. We had just got off the big crash. Now we're heading for the Great Depression. We were Depression kids. It was really bad. Our mothers, they didn't know what to fix for supper. Husbands, a lot of them, were veterans in the First World War, went off drinking, took off 3-4 days. My dad and his brothers, they made sherry wine, they made beer, they even made some brandy, and they went to drinking. When you take a man away from his job and he doesn't have any money and he can't finance his family, he's going to do something drastic. There were 4 of us kids. We were with our mother all the time. We had to rely on her, not our father. My grandma had a farm 50 miles out of Detroit, and they canned in the fall all the vegetables and tomatoes, and that kept us alive. And we had no decent clothes. And every 6 months, we could go and get commodities or maybe the clothing we needed from welfare. That was it. So you see, we kids had a pretty rough bringing up. And I think that's one of the reasons we got labeled the greatest generation, because we passed through it. We made it through it with nothing hardly. It is the 8th of December. It is cold in Detroit. And we loved the big bands. Oh, they were good, hot. They were hot then. And we had an old Ford car. We had a radio hooked up, Motorola. When we was 3 of us were 16 years old. And all of a sudden, the announcer stops the program, and he said, "Ladies and gentlemen, we interrupt this broadcast."
We interrupt this program to bring you a special news bulletin. The Japanese have attacked Pearl Harbor, Hawaii, by air, President Roosevelt has just announced. The attack also was made on all naval and military activities on the principal island of Oahu.
Yesterday, December 7th, 1941, a date which will live in infamy. The United States of America was suddenly and deliberately attacked by naval and air forces of the Empire of Japan.
I interpret the will of Congress and of the people. We shall gain triumphant victory, so help us God. You know what I said? Tomorrow morning, I'm going to skip school and go down to the Marine Corps office. I'm going to join the Marines. Got up in the morning with my 2 sisters, brother. I said, "Don't say anything to Ma." So I took off downtown Detroit about a mile from where I lived. Went up on the 4th floor. There was a Marine gunny. He's standing in the doorway. He said, "Young man, what can I do for you?" And I said, "I want to join." He said, "How old are you?" I said, 16. He said, "I can't do that. We can't take you at 16. When will you be 17? I said, "About 6 months." He said, "Come back in 6 months. I'll give you the paper to have your parents sign. You bring that back with you. You want to do that?" I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "Go." I took off. I was so excited. I ran home, and I forgot that I skipped school, and I ran in the doorway, and my mother saw me. She said, "What are you doing home?" I told her what I did. "Throw it away. I'm not signing that." I put it in the drawer, and I kept it. When I had my birthday, they had a cake. We had a little ice cream, little party. I got that paper out, and I came in, and I showed it to my dad. He said, "What is this?" I said, "If you sign that, Ma signs it, I can join the Marine Corps." He said, "Give me a pen." He signed it. "Vera, sign this." And he tossed the paper over. "I'm not signing that. I don't want to go through this again." He said, "Vera, listen to me. The boy walked out of school. He's doing menial jobs. He'll probably turn out to be a bum. And I looked at my ma like this. Just give me the paper. She signed the paper, both of them. I ran downtown, and he met me again, and he said, how'd you do? I said, I got it. He said, let me have that. He said, see that doorway? I said, yes, sir. He said, you're going to go through that doorway. You're going to meet a Navy doctor, and he is going to check you over from the top of your head to the tip of your toe, and you ain't never going to forget it. Do you want to do that? I said, yes, sir. He said, go. I passed. It was terrible. Well, we went to San Diego, 8 weeks of boot camp training, severe. What they do in 13 now, we did in 8 weeks. And the reason was kids were joining like crazy. There were platoons all over that field, all over that. You couldn't hardly move, but we were in and out like this training. It was really something. I went into an outfit called 2nd Anti-Tank Battalion. Now, we had Marine Raiders on the canal. We had the paratroopers that went in Bougainville, and they broke us up because we had special weapons killing tanks, but they couldn't get us half-tracks. They would bog down in the mud. So they sent all of us back to the States, and Roosevelt formed a division to fight on Iwo Jima. They had the 3rd, and they had the 6th. Now they want us. And so that 3 division trained to fight on Iwo Jima. Well, we went all through it for 3.5 months, 4 months. We got ready over here in Hawaii. We're at Kamuela on Big Island. Went over to Hilo, boarded a ship, came up through the channel, and that's when we saw the disaster. Oil, the ships, silent, went right through, not a word, and we went on our way to Saipan.
The American front lines had advanced to Guam and Saipan. Ahead now stood Iwo Jima, the most heavily fortified island in the world. Buried deep underground lay 20 years of Jap preparation for murder. 20,000 of their toughest fighting men waited for us to make the first move.
We got the word that we were going to take that island. We knew nothing about that island. The Air Force bombed that for 72 days. No casualties. They went underneath, underground, up through tunnels. They just went in, then when they left, they come back up again. We rallied around the water in tractors, and they took us to the beach. We had some veterans with us who were seasoned, and I gotta tell you, when we all hit the beach, every dang one of us was scared. Now here we are, scared to death, couldn't move, lads throwing mortars at us, giving us everything up there 545 feet away at the top of Mount Surbud, hammering away at us. John Basilone, Medal of Honor on Guadalcanal, was to my right. He was on a bond tour. He went to Chesty Puller, the general, and he asked if he could go back with his buddies. He said, "But we need you for bond tour. You're doing good." He said, "Sir, I'd like to be with my buddy." Well, I can't tell a Medal of Honor he can't do it. Go. Got killed right there, never got up. That hurt our morale. I carried a flamethrower, 72 pounds on my back. I carried a .45, couldn't use a rifle, and my K-bar knife. And then we had 3 riflemen. I had 1 on each side of me. And they got to stay with me because if I fall, I'm done. I can't get up. I always had a couple boys with me, but I lost them. By the time we reached the beach, I had nobody. I went to the first foxhole by myself. Yep, and that's a lonely feeling. We turned and went to Suribachi. I got about 200-300 feet, and a Japanese soldier ran across the front of me, and he went down the hole. So my job is to burn him out. But we were told also, if you can get him to surrender, We need help. We don't know anything about that island. You got to take them if you can. I heard, Graves, hold up, hold up. A kid in another company, he didn't know where his company was. His name was Johnny Arview. He had a contract with St. Louis Cardinals when he got out of the war. So he came over and joined me. And I told him, hey, well, I'll go throw grenades down in there. No, we want to try and talk him out. So I said, Detekoi, come. Kohano Shake, flamethrower. Said it twice. Nothing. Not a thing. I said, all right, let's walk up there. We took one step and he came out. He had a plume hat. He had a beautiful sword and a beautiful uniform on, and he stood there with his hand on his sword. He's like this. And I said, Detekoi. He looked at me. Ohano Shaki. Boom. Blew himself to pieces. Took everything with him. I never got the sword. So we spent 2 hours on that beach being hammered. From the top of the beach to the base of Mount Suribachi was 545 feet. When we went to Suribachi and fought our way, we got there the third day, 545 feet. And then we had our battle going up. Well, then our battalion commander, Chandler Johnson, had a flag that he got from one of the skippers on a transport coming. And the skipper said to him, he said, would you put this up for me if you can do it? If you get on one of the hills? And he said, sure, I can take care of that. So he said to Lieutenant Harold Schreier, he said, Harold, when you get up the top, he said, get some boys together and put this flag up. We were fighting our way right up. We got up the top. They're putting her up, you know. And we stood there, dang, you got a flag up there. Here's something you don't know. People do not understand when they see that flag now. That is drain pipe. Put together, they found that. We had nothing to put a flag up with. But when it got up, man, we had pride. We put our flag on Japanese soil for the first time in history. And it made them infuriated, and they fought twice as hard. My gosh, out in the water. Can you imagine 500 ships out there letting go in the air with everything they can make a noise or a fire with? Rockets, everything, tracers. Our boys that were on the north end now, they were opening up with tracers. It was a spectacle. Well, we were on the other end, on the north end, and 3 of us were in a hole. And we're just shooting the breeze, biding time. He'd come as at night. But I wanted to know if there's any snipers out there, so I got up on my knees and elbow on the ground. I'm looking like this, all of my glasses. Can't find a thing. About 10, 15 minutes, I dropped back down, squatted out of the ground. I got on my phone, and I said, Graves, your CP. And they said, go ahead, Graves. I said, I've been just looking for snipers, and I haven't seen anything. I've seen no action, no movement. Well, he said, keep looking, because they just shot our first sergeant up here at CP, got him in the thigh. So we got to get him out of here. By the way, you got a kid coming for your replacement. We've sent him over to you. I said, okay. Well, he came, slid down in the hole. He said, who's Graves? I said, I am. He said, what do you want me to do? I said, just sit down. There'll be plenty to do tonight. So I took the glass and, well, I got to be looking. He said, Graves, let me take a look. I said, no, you get yourself shot. They said, give him the glasses. That's what he's here for. So I threw him the glasses. He got up right where I had been, right next to me. Phew. He fell back. Helmet flew off between my feet, and it was spinning. It stopped. He meant to get me. He knew I'd be up there again. He was waiting for me. And this kid was there. I looked down in the helmet, and I saw a beautiful young lady sitting in a chair, and in her lap was a baby. I lost it. I took everything off. I cussed. I cussed. It was terrible. I cussed the island. I cussed the Corps. And, I cussed God. But on the beach, I asked him if he'd get me off the island. If he would get me off, I'd serve him the rest of my life. I got off. I'm at the North End now. I think I can make it. I don't need him now. That's the way I felt. There were 300 men in my company at that time. The battle lasted 6 weeks. At the end of the 6th week, 18 of us walked down, no officers. That's what happened on Iwo Jima. They wounded 20,000, taken off, put aboard medical ships. They buried them at sea, some of them that died, and that's what happened. I had about 3 close calls, escapes. I'll never forget it. First night, it must have been about 7 o'clock. My mother fixed supper. After we ate, he said, "Come on down, we'll go down to Johnny's bar." So we went down there and we started drinking. We got into an argument. I never liked him. I never loved him. He was mean. He beat us kids. He beat my mother. So I thought it was best to get out. So I went home. My mother said, "What happened?" I told him. He came up and he'd been drinking, of course, like I was. He said to me, "What'd you have to eat?" And I said, "Ham and eggs." He said, "That'll cost you $15 a week." I said, "Listen, so-and-so, you haven't given a thing to my mother, and you have not put a thing in this home she bought. Don't even talk to me about that." And he came at me. And my mother stepped in between us and he hit her. She went down on the floor. I went at him like a wild animal. I threw him on the floor 3 times, threw him down the stairs, and he hit his head against the door and called the cops. They come and say, "Dick, not you again? Come on." They took him away. I thought that our parents and that would really fall in love again with us, but they had their problems. I couldn't adjust to that. I don't need their problems. It was hard for me to settle down. I wanted to go back in, but I got married and they wouldn't take me. Moved to Wisconsin, and I had been drinking quite a bit. And my wife and I had no children. My wife and I were not making it, and we were going to break up. I was in bad shape. I came into the apartment where she was and flopped myself on the couch. She's working. And the phone rang, and she answered it. And I'm kind of listening. She hung the phone up and came over. I said, "Who was that?" She says, "Mr. Bilo, a Danish man from Denmark, Copenhagen." He said, "What does he want?" "He wants you to call him." So I got up off the couch and I went over and dialed. I got him. "What can I do for you?" He said, "Don, I want to tell you something. You are a mess. You're losing your friends. You're losing your wife. And you're going to lose yourself, and you can't do anything for yourself. Would you take my wife and I to Billy Graham over here in Oshkosh, about 16 miles up along the lake? I'll change clothes and be right there." Big auditorium and packed full of people. We sat there, and Billy came on the screen. I was in no mood, and boy, he hammered away. "You were not your own, you're above the price. And that price was Jesus Christ on Calvary. What do you do with Christ in your life? You know your life is a mess. You need God, you need him tonight, and you come. And I was in a mess. I was. Because I thought Billy was talking to me. Later on, the film in, they sang. Beautiful song. And then my mind went back on the beach 9 years earlier, and I made that promise. And now it's coming back to me. I said, "You hypocrite, you were a liar, you were lying to God. He got you off that island safe and sound. He put you through everything. Why, I don't know. And this is what I did." And I fell on the floor and cried like a baby. There's something about God. When you tell him something, he records it. And he didn't forget it. They started singing. I got up on my feet. I turned to my wife. She got up, walked over to me, took my hand, and said, "Let's both go up and receive Christ." He gave us a Bible. We went home, dropped the couple off. We sat in a leather chair. It was a wedding gift. We never sat together in that chair. And I said, "There's a Bible here someplace." I reached down, there it was, old Bible we had in our lap. I opened it up, I said, "I don't know where to go, but I'm going to put my finger on something." The Lord is good, the stronghold in the day of trouble, and he knoweth them that trust in him. Nahum 1:7. I will never forget it. And my life just completely changed. Lived there 32 years and raised 4 children. From there on, I went off in churches. Boy, this brings back old times. I have something I want to read. It was written by a Marine. He was sitting there and I said, "What are you doing?" He said, "I'm writing a poem." He said, "Take this. When you're out speaking, if you would, I'd like you to read it. And I want to read it for you because it talks about you and your buddies and my buddies." Here it is. "Now in my hand, I pass this cheer to toast Marines both far and near, to those on land, on sea, in sky. To them my toast is simplified. To those Marines pass through our ranks, I offer all my heartfelt thanks. They led the way, each gal and guy. They shared our life of Semper Fi. To those Marines of yesteryear, whose missions were so very clear, to lift the flag, to do or die, to those who did it, Semper Fi. And those Marines of future days, who'll in tradition keep our ways, to them our heart and minds do fly. To them my toast is Semper Fi. And those of you who now remain, I charge to keep the soul refrain. Hold fast our core with heads up high. Serve with pride. Be Semper Fi. Now toast I you and years gone by. What made us laugh? What made us cry? With fondest memories and a sigh, I bid farewell and Semper Fi. Jack Vaughn, a Marine. And that's what Marines do. They encourage one another. It isn't that we're any better than any other military group, but we have a tradition, and we need to keep that tradition. Because we lose that, we're done. But I have a question, and I never got an answer. What did they tie the flag on with? You know, I thought it was shoelaces. Yeah. You wouldn't take your shoelaces off. I don't know. Yeah. I have no idea. And I forgot to ask. I never asked my buddies. I don't know. But look at it.